She thought the worst part of their anniversary dinner would be the awkward silence. She was wrong. When her tech CEO husband raised his glass to toast their 5 years together, he said a name that shattered everything, but it wasn't hers. What happened next didn't just go viral with 50 million views. It exposed a corporate conspiracy reaching the highest levels of Seattle's tech elite, involving fake pregnancies, industrial espionage, and a plan to steal $60 million. This isn't just a story about cheating. This is about how one woman's public humiliation became the key to unraveling the biggest corporate crime of the year. Hit that like button if you're ready for twists you won't see coming. And subscribe, because this revenge story will leave you speechless. Trust me, by the end, you'll never look at viral moments the same way again. Sarah Mitchell stood in the courthouse hallway, her trembling hands clutching a manila envelope that contained everything. 6 months of investigation, countless sleepless nights, and evidence that would destroy 3 lives forever. The marble floor beneath her feet felt as cold as the truth she was about to reveal. "Your Honor," she would say in just moments, "I have one final piece of evidence that changes everything." But this story doesn't begin in a courtroom. It begins 3 months earlier in the most exclusive restaurant in downtown Seattle, where Sarah thought she was celebrating 5 years of marriage. Instead, she was about to witness the most humiliating moment of her life broadcast to millions. The anniversary dinner at Cascade was supposed to be perfect. Jackson Mitchell, tech startup CEO and Seattle's most eligible married man, had spared no expense. The corner table overlooked Elliott Bay, where city lights danced on dark water like scattered diamonds. Sarah smoothed her emerald dress over her 6-month pregnant belly, watching her husband charm the sommelier with stories about his latest business triumph. At 32, Sarah had thought she understood her husband completely. They'd met in college, built their careers together, survived his company's rocky startup years. She'd given up her own social media management business to support his dreams, believing they were building something beautiful together. Their Instagram account painted the picture perfectly successful entrepreneur, devoted wife, baby on the way. Jackson raised his wine glass, his blue eyes sparkling with what Sarah mistook for love. "To us, baby, 5 incredible years, and the best is yet to come." His smile was the same one that had charmed investors out of $50 million, the same one that graced magazine covers when his company made headlines. Sarah sipped her sparkling water, feeling their unborn daughter kick gently against her ribs. Everything seemed perfect. She had no idea that across town, a 24-year-old TikTok influencer named Brooklyn Hayes was posting an Instagram story from the exact hotel suite Jackson claimed he'd never seen before. The waiter approached with dessert, but Jackson waved him away. "Actually, I have one more toast to make. The most important one." He stood, his voice carrying across their intimate corner of the restaurant. Sarah's phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Then another. Her follower count was climbing rapidly, comments flooding in. She glanced at the screen, confused, as Jackson continued speaking. "To the woman who truly understands me," Jackson said, his voice thick with emotion Sarah hadn't heard in months. "To someone who sees my vision, who believes in my dreams, who makes me feel alive again." Sarah looked up, expecting to meet his eyes. Instead, she saw him staring past her, as if addressing someone else entirely. "To Brooklyn," he said clearly, raising his glass higher. "To the future we're building together." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. Her phone was exploding with notifications now. Someone had been recording. The video was already spreading across social media platforms faster than wildfire. Anniversary toast was trending within minutes. Jackson's eyes focused on Sarah's face, and she watched the color drain from his features as he realized what he'd just done. The restaurant's gentle murmur seemed to stop entirely. Even the sommelier had frozen mid-pour at a nearby table. "Sarah, Jackson began, but his wife was already standing. "Brooklyn," Sarah repeated softly, her voice carrying a deadly calm that Jackson had never heard before. "What a lovely name for your mistress." She picked up her purse with steady hands, her mind already calculating, already planning. The video would go viral. Jackson's company was weeks away from going public. His investors would see this. His board would see this. Everyone would see this. "Happy anniversary, Jackson," Sarah said, her voice clear enough for the phones now recording from other tables to capture. "Enjoy explaining this to your father." As she walked away from their 5-year marriage, Sarah Mitchell had no idea that this humiliating moment would become the first domino in a chain reaction that would expose corruption reaching the highest levels of Seattle's tech elite. She also had no idea that the worst was yet to come. The war for her life had just begun. Maya Rodriguez had seen plenty of divorce cases in her 8 years as a family attorney, but nothing quite like the video her best friend showed her the next morning. Sarah sat in Maya's downtown office, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup she hadn't touched, while the anniversary toast played on repeat across every major social media platform. 2.3 million views and climbing, Maya said, scrolling through the comments. Jackson Mitchell's trending on Twitter, and not in a good way. His company's stock simulation dropped 12% overnight. Sarah stared out the window at the Seattle skyline. "I keep thinking I should feel something. Rage, sadness, anything. Instead, I just feel calculating. That's the shock talking. The real emotions will hit later." Maya pulled up a legal document on her computer. "Right now, we need to focus on protecting you and the baby. Washington is a community property state, which means I want to know everything first." Sarah interrupted. "Before we file anything, before Jackson knows I'm serious about divorce, I want to understand exactly what I'm dealing with." Maya leaned back in her chair. "Sarah, that's not necessary. The video is evidence enough of infidelity. We can start proceedings immediately, and no." Sarah's voice carried a steel Maya had never heard before. "If I've learned anything from 5 years of marriage to Jackson Mitchell, it's that he always has 3 moves planned ahead. I'm not walking into this blind." That afternoon, Sarah created her first fake social media account. The username was Innocuous Seattle Coffee Lover 47. The profile picture showed a generic coffee cup. Within hours, she'd found Brooklyn Hayes. Brooklyn's TikTok account boasted 2.1 million followers and a bio that read, "Living my best life. Brand partnerships Brooklyn, Hayes, Biz." Her content was the standard influencer fare, morning routines, workout videos, sponsored posts for skincare companies. But Sarah noticed patterns in the background locations, timestamps that didn't match Jackson's supposed business schedule. Sarah's investigative skills, honed from years of social media marketing, kicked into overdrive. She tracked Brooklyn's Instagram stories, cross-referenced locations with Jackson's calendar, and built a timeline that painted a devastating picture. The affair had been going on for 8 months, while Sarah battled morning sickness and attended prenatal appointments alone. Jackson had been financing Brooklyn's lifestyle, the luxury apartment, the designer clothes, the weekend trips to Vancouver, all paid for with money from their joint account. "Look at this," Sarah told Maya a week later, spreading printed screenshots across the conference table. Brooklyn posted from the Fairmont Olympic on March 15th. "Jackson told me he was at a board retreat in Portland that weekend." Maya studied the evidence. "This is incredibly thorough, but Sarah, you need to be careful. If Jackson discovers you're investigating, he won't. I've been the perfect wife for 5 years. He thinks I'm too naive to question him. Sarah pulled up another document on her laptop. But I found something else. Look at this credit card statement. The American Express bill showed charges Sarah had never seen before. A recurring payment to something called BH Consulting for $3,000 monthly. Hotel charges in cities where Jackson claimed he'd never traveled. A charge from Cartier for $8,000 on the day Jackson gave Sarah a $50 necklace for her birthday. BH Consulting, Maya said slowly. Brooklyn Hayes. Has to be. He's been paying her a monthly allowance and writing it off as a business expense. Sarah's laugh was bitter. My husband is so arrogant he's committing tax fraud to support his mistress. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Sarah, what you're uncovering here, it's bigger than an affair. If Jackson's been misappropriating company funds, using business accounts for personal expenses, then his father needs to know. Sarah's hand moved protectively to her belly. Richard Mitchell didn't build a tech empire by tolerating thieves, even if one of them is his son. As Sarah drove home that evening, she felt a strange sense of clarity settling over her. The numbness was fading, replaced by something sharper and more focused. Jackson had betrayed her in the most public way possible, but in doing so, he'd given her something powerful motivation. She pulled into their driveway, noting Jackson's Tesla wasn't there. According to his calendar, he was at a client dinner. According to Brooklyn's Instagram story, posted 20 minutes ago, she was at a wine bar downtown wearing the Cartier bracelet Jackson had denied buying. Sarah walked into their pristine modern home, past the nursery she'd been decorating alone, and into Jackson's home office. His laptop was closed, his desk organized with typical precision. But Sarah knew her husband's habits better than he realized. She opened the laptop, and her heart raced as the password prompt appeared. Jackson thought he was clever, but Sarah remembered the password from watching him type it hundreds of times, Brooklyn 2024. The screen unlocked, revealing a desktop she'd never seen before, email accounts she didn't know existed, photo folders labeled with dates that corresponded to Jackson's business trips. Sarah's hands trembled as she opened the first folder. The images inside made her stomach turn, not just because of their intimate nature, but because of the timestamps, photos of Jackson and Brooklyn in bed, taken the morning after Sarah's 20-week ultrasound appointment, the same day she'd called Jackson, crying with joy because they'd learned they were having a daughter. She'd found the smoking gun. Now she just had to decide what to do with it. But as Sarah began copying files to a secure drive, she had no idea that Jackson was already suspicious, or that his father Richard had been monitoring company finances more closely than anyone knew. The perfect wife was about to become the perfect enemy. Sarah's investigation had uncovered $17,000 in unauthorized charges over 8 months, but she never expected the knock on her door at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. She opened it to find Richard Mitchell standing on her porch, looking every inch the billionaire patriarch who'd built Mitchell Technologies from nothing. "Sarah," he said simply, "we need to talk." Richard Mitchell commanded rooms the way gravity commanded objects, effortlessly and without question. At 68, he still possessed the sharp intensity that had made him one of Seattle's most feared businessmen. His silver hair was perfectly styled despite the early hour, his suit tailored to perfection. "Jackson's at his early workout," Sarah said, stepping aside to let him in. "He won't be back for an hour." "I'm not here to see Jackson." Richard's pale blue eyes, so similar to his son's but infinitely colder, surveyed their living room with the same clinical assessment he'd once used to evaluate startup acquisitions. "I'm here because you've been asking questions about my son's business expenses." Sarah's blood ran cold. She'd been so careful, so methodical. I don't know what you mean. Please don't insult my intelligence. Richard settled into their white leather armchair as if he owned it, which, Sarah suddenly realized, he probably did. The house, the cars, Jackson's lifestyle. It all flowed from Mitchell Technologies. My head of security flagged unusual activity on Jackson's accounts 3 days ago, downloading statements, accessing files from unauthorized devices. Very thorough work. Sarah remained standing, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. At 7 months pregnant, she felt ungainly and vulnerable under Richard's calculating stare. You discovered the affair? Richard continued matter-of-factly. Brooklyn Hayes, 24, TikTok influencer, approximately 2 million followers. She's been receiving $3,000 monthly from Jackson's discretionary account since last September. You knew, Sarah's voice cracked despite her efforts to stay calm. I know everything about my company's finances. I know Jackson's been sloppy, emotional, thinking with organs other than his brain. Richard's tone carried the same disappointment Sarah had heard him use when discussing failed investments. What I didn't expect was for my daughter-in-law to conduct such a professional investigation. Sarah felt the walls closing in. If you're here to threaten me. Quite the opposite. Richard pulled a leather portfolio from his briefcase. I'm here to offer you a choice. He placed a document on their coffee table. Sarah could see it was some kind of contract, dense with legal language and multiple signature lines. Jackson's company goes public in 6 weeks. Richard said, the IPO is valued at $500 million. Jackson owns 30%. I own 40%. The remaining 30% is split among investors and employees. If everything proceeds smoothly, our family's net worth increases by approximately $200 million. Sarah stared at the contract without touching it. And if things don't proceed smoothly, if a scandal emerges, say, video evidence of the CEO toasting his mistress at his anniversary dinner, or documentation of him using company resources for personal affairs, the SEC gets involved, investors panic, the IPO fails. Richard's voice never changed tone, but Sarah heard the threat underneath. Hundreds of employees lose their retirement savings. My 40 years of work becomes worthless. The contract seemed to pulse on the table between them like a living thing. Sarah could see numbers, dollar signs, legal terms that would reshape her life. What are you offering me? She asked quietly. $2 million. Cash payment within 48 hours. Full custody of your daughter with no visitation rights for Jackson. Complete non-disclosure agreement regarding anything you've discovered about my son's extracurricular activities. Sarah's knees felt weak. $2 million would secure her daughter's future, buy them independence, eliminate the need for a messy divorce battle. All she had to do was disappear quietly. There's just one condition, Richard continued. You sign a document relinquishing all parental rights claims against Jackson. Legally, he'll never be financially responsible for the child. The room spun around Sarah. You want me to pretend he's not the father? I want you to protect your daughter from the scandal that's coming. Richard leaned forward slightly. Sarah, you seem like an intelligent woman. You've seen the evidence of Jackson's character. Do you really want him involved in raising your child? Sarah sank onto their couch, her mind racing. Richard was offering her everything she thought she wanted. Freedom from Jackson. Financial security. Sole custody of her daughter. But something about his clinical delivery, his assumption that she could be bought, ignited a spark of anger she hadn't felt since the anniversary dinner. What about Brooklyn? Sarah asked. What happens to her in this arrangement? Richard's smile was razor thin. Brooklyn Hayes signed a similar agreement yesterday morning. She'll be relocating to Los Angeles, where her influencer career will mysteriously flourish thanks to some very generous brand partnerships. My son will never see her again. You've already talked to her. I talked to everyone. Sarah, it's how I built this empire. Richard stood, straightening his tie. You have 24 hours to decide. Sign the contract, and you start a new life tomorrow. Refuse, and you'll find yourself fighting a legal battle you cannot win against resources you cannot match. After Richard left, Sarah sat alone in her living room, staring at the contract that would either save her life or end it. The house felt different now, contaminated by the knowledge that Richard Mitchell saw her as just another problem to be solved, another expense to be managed. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Coffee later, need to tell you something important about Jackson's company. Sarah typed back, make it urgent. Everything just changed. As she prepared to leave, Sarah caught her reflection in their hallway mirror. The woman staring back still looked like the devoted wife from their anniversary dinner, but her eyes held something new, something dangerous. Richard Mitchell had made a critical error. He'd assumed Sarah would choose the safe path, the easy money, the quiet exit. He'd treated her like a business transaction instead of a woman whose life had been systematically destroyed. Sarah placed her hand on her belly, feeling her daughter's strong kicks. Don't worry, baby girl, she whispered. Mommy's going to teach these men what real power looks like. The war was escalating, and Sarah Mitchell was just getting started. Maya's coffee shop choice was strategic, a crowded Starbucks in Capitol Hill where their conversation would be lost in the chaos of morning commuters. Sarah arrived first, choosing a corner table with clear sightlines to all exits. 7 months of investigating Jackson had taught her to think like someone with secrets. You look terrible, Maya said, sliding into the opposite chair with 2 vanilla lattes. Richard Mitchell paid me a visit this morning. Sarah pushed the contract across the small table. He wants to buy my silence for $2 million. Maya's eyes widened as she scanned the document. Sarah, this is actually a good offer. $2 million cash, full custody, no court battle. There's something else. Sarah pulled out her phone, scrolling to the screenshots she'd taken of Jackson's laptop. I found these last night. The images showed email exchanges between Jackson and someone identified only as BH Consulting. But these weren't love letters. They were detailed financial discussions about moving money through shell companies, inflating user engagement numbers for potential investors, and backdating stock options to avoid tax implications. Brooklyn isn't just Jackson's mistress, Sarah said quietly. She's his business partner. They've been manipulating Mitchell Technologies' books together. Maya stared at the emails. Sarah, this is securities fraud. This could send Jackson to prison. It gets worse. Sarah showed her another screenshot. Look at this email from 3 weeks ago. The message was brief but devastating. Baby problem resolved soon. Dad doesn't suspect anything. IPO proceeds as planned. J. Maya looked up sharply. Baby problem. He's been planning to get rid of me and the baby all along. The anniversary dinner. The public humiliation. It wasn't a mistake. It was designed to make me file for divorce so he could claim I abandoned the marriage. Sarah's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. Brooklyn's not just his mistress, Maya. She's his exit strategy. Before Maya could respond, Sarah's phone rang. The caller ID showed Jackson's office number. Don't answer it, Maya warned, but Sarah was already swiping to accept. Sarah, thank God. Jackson's voice was strained, panicked. Where are you? I came home and you weren't there. And after yesterday's conversation with Dad? What conversation with Dad? Sarah kept her voice neutral. Nothing, just business stuff. Listen, I know things have been weird since the dinner, but we need to talk. Really talk. About us. About the baby. About our future. Sarah met Maya's eyes across the table. I'm having coffee with Maya. I'll be home in an hour. Sarah, wait. I love you. Whatever you're thinking, whatever anyone has told you, just remember that I love you and our daughter more than anything. The line went dead. Sarah stared at her phone, feeling pieces of a larger puzzle clicking into place. He knows, she said. Jackson knows his father made me an offer, and he's panicking. Maya leaned forward. Sarah, listen to me carefully. If Jackson and Brooklyn have been committing securities fraud, and if Richard knows about it, then your $2 million offer isn't generosity. It's hush money. They need you gone before the IPO because if this comes out during the SEC review, the whole company collapses. Sarah finished the thought, and everyone loses everything, including your $2 million, because it would be considered fraudulent transfer of assets. Maya gathered the papers. Sarah, you can't go home. If Jackson thinks you know about the financial crimes, if he thinks you're a threat to the IPO... Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check Brooklyn's latest TikTok. Posted 10 minutes ago. A friend. Sarah pulled up Brooklyn's account, and her heart stopped. The video showed Brooklyn in what was clearly Jackson's downtown office, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. Baby Mitchell, coming soon. Brooklyn announced to her 2 million followers. Daddy's so excited, can't wait to share our news with the world. The comments were exploding. Users who recognized Jackson from the anniversary dinner video were tagging Mitchell Technologies' official account. Local news outlets were already picking up the story. She's claiming to be pregnant with Jackson's baby, Sarah whispered. Maya, she's claiming to be pregnant. Maya grabbed Sarah's arm. We need to leave, now. As they hurried toward Maya's car, Sarah's mind raced through the implications. Brooklyn's pregnancy announcement would dominate the news cycle, pushing the anniversary dinner story back into trending territory. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. This is all orchestrated, Sarah said as Maya started the engine. Jackson, Brooklyn, Richard, they're all working together. The affair, the humiliation, the pregnancy announcement. It's all designed to make me look like the crazy, jealous ex-wife while they position Brooklyn as the new, younger mother of Jackson's heir. But if Brooklyn's not actually pregnant, then it's fraud on top of fraud. Sarah buckled her seatbelt, her analytical mind cutting through the emotional chaos. They're counting on me taking Richard's offer and disappearing quietly. They need me gone so Brooklyn can step into my place without any legal complications. Maya pulled out of the parking lot, heading toward the interstate. Where do you want to go? Sarah thought for a moment. The courthouse. I want to file a restraining order against Jackson before he realizes I'm not coming home. Sarah, that's declaring war. Once you file legal papers, there's no going back. Sarah looked out the window at the Seattle skyline, at the gleaming towers where Jackson's company would soon add another monument to corporate greed and personal betrayal. Good, she said simply. I want them to know I'm coming. But as Maya drove toward downtown, neither woman noticed the black sedan that had been following them since they left the coffee shop. Richard Mitchell's security team was very thorough, and Sarah Mitchell was about to learn that declaring war on a billionaire family required more than just courage. It required survival skills she didn't know she possessed. The cramping started during Sarah's meeting with the family court clerk. She was filling out restraining order paperwork when the first wave of pain hit, sharp and low in her abdomen. Maya noticed her wince. Sarah, what's wrong? Just Braxton Hicks. Sarah lied, signing her name with a trembling hand. But the pain felt different from the practice contractions she'd experienced before. More intense, more urgent. Her phone had been buzzing constantly for 2 hours. Missed calls from Jackson, from numbers she didn't recognize, from reporters who'd somehow gotten her contact information. Brooklyn's pregnancy announcement had exploded across social media, with Chester Baby Mitchell trending alongside renewed interest in nurse anniversary toast. The clerk processed Sarah's restraining order request with bureaucratic efficiency. Mrs. Mitchell, based on your statement about feeling threatened and the public nature of your husband's infidelity, I can issue a temporary order. Your husband will be served within 24 hours and must maintain 500 feet distance from you and your residence. As they left the courthouse, Sarah felt another cramp, stronger this time. Maya noticed her pause on the steps. Hospital, Maya said firmly. Now. I'm fine. It's just stress. But even as Sarah said it, she felt wetness between her legs. When she looked down, her maternity jeans showed a dark stain that made her blood run cold. The emergency room at Swedish Medical Center was chaos. Sarah sat in triage, trying to stay calm while a nurse took her vitals and asked routine questions about her pregnancy. The cramping had intensified, coming in waves now that felt suspiciously like early labor. 7 months along, the nurse noted, checking Sarah's chart. Any unusual stress recently? Maya almost laughed bitterly. You could say that. Dr. Jennifer Park, the attending obstetrician, examined Sarah with professional concern. Your cervix is showing signs of dilation, and we're detecting some bleeding. I'm going to recommend immediate bed rest and monitoring. This could be premature labor. Could be. Sarah gripped the examination table. What does that mean for my baby? Babies born at 28 weeks have an 85% survival rate with proper medical care, but we want to keep her inside as long as possible. Dr. Park made notes in Sarah's chart. Mrs. Mitchell, I have to ask, have you experienced any unusual physical or emotional trauma recently? Before Sarah could answer, her phone rang. Jackson's number. Don't answer it, Maya advised. But Dr. Park looked concerned. Is there someone causing you stress? Someone you feel threatened by? Sarah looked at her phone, where Jackson's name pulsed insistently. My husband. I filed a restraining order this morning. Dr. Park's expression shifted to high alert. Nurse, I need security to flag this room. No visitors without Mrs. Mitchell's explicit permission. As if summoned by their conversation, commotion erupted in the hallway outside. Sarah could hear Jackson's voice, loud and demanding. That's my wife. That's my baby. You can't keep me from seeing them. Through the small window in her room door, Sarah saw Jackson arguing with 2 security guards. He looked disheveled, his usual corporate polish replaced by the manic energy of a man losing control. Sir, we have a restraining order on file. One guard explained. You need to leave the premises immediately. This is insane. Jackson's voice carried down the hallway. Sarah's having some kind of breakdown. She's been acting paranoid, making wild accusations. I'm trying to protect my family. Dr. Park closed the door firmly. Mrs. Mitchell, elevated stress can absolutely trigger premature labor. We need to keep you calm and stable. But calm was impossible. Through the closed door, Sarah could hear Jackson's voice growing more desperate, more theatrical. He was performing for the hospital staff, trying to paint her as the unstable one. She's been obsessing over social media, Jackson continued, his voice designed to carry, following my employees online, making up conspiracy theories about my business. I'm worried she's having some kind of prenatal psychiatric episode. Maya's face was white with fury. He's trying to make you look crazy. Sarah, This is exactly what Richard warned you about. They're going to claim you're mentally unstable. Another wave of cramping hit Sarah, stronger than before. She doubled over, gasping, as the fetal monitor began beeping urgently. Dr. Park, the nurse called. We're showing fetal distress. The next few minutes blurred together in a haze of medical urgency. More doctors appeared. Medications were administered, and Sarah found herself hooked to multiple machines designed to monitor her and the baby's vital signs. The good news is we've stopped the labor progression, Dr. Park announced after what felt like hours. The bad news is you're on strict bed rest for the foreseeable future. Any stress, any physical exertion could trigger full labor. Through her exhaustion, Sarah heard Maya talking quietly with the hospital's patient advocate about extending her security restrictions. Jackson had finally left, but not before making several loud declarations about his unstable wife that had been overheard by multiple staff members. Sarah, Maya said gently, there's something else. While you were being examined, I got a call from that journalist I mentioned, Tyler Chen from the Seattle Times. He's been investigating Mitchell Technologies' finances for months. Sarah struggled to focus through the medication fog. What did he find? Irregularities in their user engagement numbers, inflated metrics that don't match third-party verification. If Tyler's right, Jackson and Brooklyn have been lying to investors about the company's actual value. How does that help us? Maya pulled out her phone, showing Sarah a news alert. Because Brooklyn just gave an interview to Entertainment Tonight, claiming she's been secretly married to Jackson for 6 months. Sarah stared at the headline, TikTok star reveals secret marriage to tech CEO, we wanted to protect our privacy. She's claiming you've been the mistress all along, Maya said gently. That Jackson has been trying to divorce you quietly to avoid damaging the company, but you've been stalking them and making threats. The fetal monitor beeped steadily, recording Sarah's daughter's strong heartbeat even as Sarah's world collapsed around her. Jackson and Brooklyn weren't just having an affair, they were systematically destroying her reputation, her credibility, her entire identity. They're going to take everything, Sarah whispered. My daughter, my home, my sanity. And everyone's going to believe them because I'm just the crazy pregnant ex-wife. Maya squeezed her hand. Not everyone. Tyler Chen wants to meet with you tomorrow. He thinks Brooklyn and Jackson's story has holes, and he's willing to help expose them. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling her daughter's strong kicks despite the medical crisis. Her baby was fighting to stay safe, to survive. Sarah needed to fight just as hard. Set up the meeting, she said. And Maya, call Richard Mitchell. Tell him I'm ready to negotiate. Sarah, you just said, I'm not surrendering. I'm going undercover. Sarah's voice was weak but determined. If they want to play games with the media, if they want to paint me as crazy, then I'll give them exactly what they expect. Let them think they've won. Outside her hospital room, Seattle's tech elite were about to learn that the most dangerous enemy is the one who has nothing left to lose. Tyler Chen looked nothing like the hard-hitting investigative journalist Sarah had imagined. At 29, he could have passed for a graduate student, with wire-rimmed glasses and a backpack covered in tech conference stickers. But his handshake was firm and his eyes held the sharp intelligence of someone who'd spent years uncovering corporate lies. Mrs. Mitchell, he said, settling into the visitor's chair beside her hospital bed, I appreciate you agreeing to see me, especially under these circumstances. Sarah adjusted her position carefully. 3 days of bed rest had left her stiff and frustrated, but the baby's vitals had stabilized. Maya says you've been investigating my husband's company. For 8 months. Tyler pulled out a tablet, swiping to a spreadsheet that made Sarah's head spin. Mitchell Technologies claims 12 million active users across their platform suite, but third-party analytics companies can only verify about 4 million actual users. That's a significant discrepancy, enough to constitute securities fraud if they go public with inflated numbers. Tyler showed her another document. Your husband's been using sophisticated bot networks to artificially inflate engagement metrics, comments, likes, user sessions, all fake. Sarah studied the data. How does Brooklyn fit into this? That's where it gets interesting. Tyler switched to a new screen showing Brooklyn's TikTok analytics. Her follower growth doesn't match organic patterns. She gained 800,000 followers in the past 6 months, but her engagement rates actually decreased. Someone's been buying her fake followers to make her appear more influential than she actually is. Jackson's been manufacturing her celebrity status? Exactly. And now she's using that manufactured influence to legitimize their relationship narrative. Tyler leaned forward. Mrs. Mitchell, I need to ask you something sensitive. Is there any chance Brooklyn Hayes is actually pregnant? Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Why do you ask? Because I've been monitoring her social media activity very carefully. Last month, she posted workout videos showing intense Abi exercises that would be dangerous for a pregnant woman. She was cliff diving in Mexico 2 weeks ago. Either she's incredibly reckless with her pregnancy, or she's lying about being pregnant entirely. Tyler nodded grimly. I think Brooklyn and Jackson are running a long-term con. They inflate her social media presence, use her influence to legitimize their relationship, claim she's pregnant to create public sympathy, then use the resulting media attention to boost Mitchell Technologies' valuation before the IPO. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. But if she's not pregnant, then Jackson's lying to his investors about his personal stability. Family man CEOs get better valuations. Right. And if the pregnancy is fake, then everything else is probably fake too. The secret marriage, the love story, the timing of their relationship. Tyler's expression was grim. Mrs. Mitchell, I think you've been the victim of an elaborate financial conspiracy designed to maximize your husband's IPO payout. Before Sarah could respond, her phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. Brooklyn had posted a new video, an ultrasound appointment showing a grainy image labeled Baby Mitchell, 12 weeks. 12 weeks. Sarah showed Tyler the post. If she's 12 weeks pregnant now, that means conception happened in July. The anniversary dinner was in October. Tyler screenshotted the post immediately. This is either incredibly damaging evidence of Jackson's ongoing affair, or proof that Brooklyn's pregnancy timeline doesn't add up. Sarah felt pieces clicking together. Tyler, what if the whole affair narrative is fake? What if Jackson and Brooklyn have been business partners all along, and they needed a public relationship story to explain their financial connection? You mean the anniversary dinner was staged? Sarah thought back to that night, to Jackson's seemingly drunken confession, to the convenient recording, to how quickly the video had spread. What if Jackson meant to say Brooklyn's name? What if the whole thing was designed to go viral and create a narrative that would benefit both of them? Tyler was typing rapidly on his tablet. If that's true, then your marriage was just collateral damage in a much bigger financial crime. The hospital room door opened and Maya appeared looking tense. Sarah, we need to talk. Richard Mitchell's lawyer just called. What now? They're claiming you violated the restraining order by having Tyler here. Apparently, they consider any media contact a form of harassment against Jackson. Maya handed Sarah a legal document. They're filing for emergency custody of the baby, claiming you're mentally unstable and pose a danger to the child. Sarah's hands shook as she read the petition. Jackson and his legal team had painted her as a delusional stalker who was conducting a malicious campaign against her innocent husband and his pregnant girlfriend. "This is insane," Tyler said, reading over her shoulder. "They're using your investigation into Jackson's crimes as evidence that you're the criminal." "It gets worse," Maya continued. "Brooklyn just filed her own restraining order, claiming you've been sending her threatening messages through fake social media accounts." Sarah felt the room spinning. "I never contacted Brooklyn directly." "I know that. You know that. But Brooklyn's providing screenshots of messages from accounts that appear to be linked to your IP address." Tyler looked up sharply. "They're framing you. Someone with technical skills created fake accounts, spoofed your internet connection, and sent threatening messages to Brooklyn to make it look like they came from you." "Jackson would know how to do that," Sarah realized. "He's a tech CEO. Maya sat down heavily. "Sarah, there's more. The hospital received an anonymous tip claiming you've been using illegal drugs during your pregnancy. They have to test you now. It's mandatory when there's a child welfare complaint." Sarah stared at her best friend, feeling the trap closing around her completely. They've thought of everything. Jackson and Brooklyn create a fake relationship, fake a pregnancy, frame me for harassment, and now they're claiming I'm an unfit mother. "But we have evidence," Tyler insisted. "The financial records, the bot networks, the timeline inconsistencies. None of that matters if I'm in jail for harassment or if the state takes my baby for drug use." Sarah's voice was flat with despair. "Tyler, they're not just stealing money from investors. They're stealing my entire life." Maya squeezed her hand. "What do you want to do?" Sarah looked out her hospital window at the Seattle skyline, at the towers of corporate power where Jackson was probably celebrating his latest victory. Her daughter kicked strongly, reminding Sarah that she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. "I want to call Richard Mitchell," she said quietly. "It's time to make a deal with the devil." Tyler looked confused, but Maya understood immediately. "Sarah, you can't trust him." "I'm not going to trust him. I'm going to use him." Sarah reached for her phone. "Tyler, how long do you need to verify Brooklyn's pregnancy claims? Give me 48 hours. I have medical contacts who can review the ultrasound images for authenticity. Then we have 48 hours to end this war before they destroy me completely." As Sarah dialed Richard Mitchell's number, she realized that sometimes the only way to defeat a conspiracy is to become a better conspirator. The student was about to become the teacher. Richard Mitchell arrived at the hospital like a man attending a board meeting, his silver hair perfectly styled and his expression revealing nothing. He'd agreed to meet Sarah in person after her phone call, but only with lawyers present and recording devices banned. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said, settling into the visitor's chair with the same calculated precision he'd shown in her living room weeks earlier. "I understand you're ready to reconsider my offer." "I'm ready to make a counteroffer." Sarah kept her voice steady despite the IVs in her arm and the fetal monitor beeping beside her bed. "But first, I need you to answer one question honestly." Richard's lawyer, a thin man named Harrison Webb, looked ready to intervene, but Richard waved him off. "Ask your question." "Did you know Jackson and Brooklyn were committing securities fraud when you offered me $2 million to disappear?" The silence stretched for 30 seconds. Richard studied Sarah's face with the same intensity he'd once used to evaluate startup pitches. "Yes," he said finally. "I've known about the bot networks for 3 months. I discovered the fake engagement metrics during my own due diligence for the IPO." Sarah felt a mixture of vindication and horror. "And you were willing to let them steal money from investors." "I was willing to let my son learn from his mistakes after the IPO succeeded. Jackson's crimes are amateur hour." Easily corrected once the company has real revenue. Richard's tone was matter-of-fact. But Brooklyn Hayes is a different problem entirely. What do you mean? Richard pulled out his phone, showing Sarah a document she'd never seen before. Brooklyn Hayes is not a TikTok influencer. Her real name is Rebecca Harrison, and she's a corporate intelligence specialist with a very interesting client list. Sarah stared at the background check report. Rebecca Harrison, 26, graduate degree in information systems from MIT, 3 years experience in industrial espionage. She's a spy. She's a corporate saboteur hired by Titan Industries to destroy Mitchell Technologies from within. Richard's voice carried genuine anger for the first time. Titan wants to acquire our company at a fraction of its true value. Brooklyn, or Rebecca, was supposed to seduce Jackson, gather inside information, and create a scandal that would crater our stock price. Sarah's mind reeled. But the affair, the pregnancy, the anniversary dinner, all real. As far as Jackson knows, Rebecca is very good at her job. She made my son fall in love with her while systematically gathering evidence to destroy him. Richard leaned forward. The pregnancy announcement, the secret marriage claims, those weren't Jackson's idea. Rebecca is accelerating the timeline because Titan wants to move quickly. So Jackson is both perpetrator and victim. Jackson is an idiot who fell for a honey trap while committing his own separate crimes. Now both of our enemies have what they need to destroy my family's legacy. Harrison Webb cleared his throat. Mr. Mitchell, perhaps we should discuss terms. I have terms. Sarah interrupted. I want complete immunity for my investigation into Jackson's finances. I want all harassment charges dropped, and I want your help destroying Rebecca Harrison's credibility before she can testify against Jackson to the SEC. Richard raised an eyebrow. Interesting. And in exchange, I give you my evidence of Jackson's bot networks and financial fraud. I testify that I discovered his crimes during our marriage, making me a whistleblower instead of a vengeful ex-wife. Most importantly, I help you prove that Rebecca Harrison manipulated Jackson into committing additional crimes to serve her real employer. You want to save Jackson. I want to save my daughter's father from going to prison for crimes he might not have committed without outside manipulation. Sarah's voice was firm. And I want to destroy the woman who's been systematically ruining multiple lives for corporate profit. Richard was quiet for a long moment. You realize this means working with me instead of against me. It means accepting that Jackson will face consequences, but not total destruction. It means my daughter doesn't grow up with a father in federal prison and a mother branded as a crazy stalker. Sarah met his eyes. Can you live with that outcome? The question is whether you can live with it, because what I'm about to show you will change how you see everything that's happened. Richard nodded to Harrison, who produced a tablet from his briefcase. The screen showed a series of text messages between Rebecca Harrison and someone identified only as client. Client timeline accelerated. Need pregnancy announcement by Friday. Rebecca Jackson's getting suspicious about the rushed timeline. Client create distraction. Public scandal will explain any inconsistencies. Rebecca anniversary dinner is perfect opportunity. We'll coordinate with media contacts. Sarah felt sick. She planned the viral video. Rebecca Harrison orchestrated your public humiliation to create a media circus that would distract from any questions about her pregnancy timeline or marriage claims. Richard's voice was cold. She destroyed your marriage as a strategic move in a corporate takeover. The fetal monitor beeped urgently as Sarah's heart rate spiked. A nurse appeared in the doorway, checking her vitals with concern. Mrs. Mitchell, your blood pressure is elevated. You need to stay calm. But calm was impossible. Everything Sarah thought she understood about her life was wrong. Jackson hadn't just betrayed her for love, he'd been manipulated into betraying her for money. Rebecca Harrison had weaponized her marriage and turned her personal life into a business strategy. "Mr. Mitchell," Sarah said once the nurse left, "I accept your alliance, but I have one final condition." "Name it." "When this is over, when Rebecca Harrison is exposed and Jackson faces appropriate consequences for his actual crimes, I want you to disappear from my life and my daughter's life completely." Richard smiled for the first time since arriving. "Mrs. Mitchell, I think we're going to work very well together." As they shook hands, Sarah realized she was about to become something she'd never imagined: a corporate warrior fighting alongside the enemy of her enemy. The war was entering its final phase, and Sarah Mitchell was no longer playing defense. She was about to go on the attack. Tyler Chen's investigation moved with precision that impressed even Richard Mitchell's security team. Within 24 hours, he'd uncovered enough evidence to unravel Rebecca Harrison's carefully constructed identity. "The ultrasound images are fake," Tyler announced, spreading printouts across Sarah's hospital bed table. "I had them analyzed by 3 different radiology technicians. The timestamp software shows they were created using medical imaging software, not captured from actual equipment." Sarah studied the evidence while Maya and Richard's lawyer, Harrison Webb, took notes. "How can you prove it? The imaging resolution is too perfect, and the fetal measurements don't match the gestational age Rebecca claims. Plus, I tracked down the actual medical facility she claimed to visit. They have no record of her appointment." Richard nodded approvingly. "What else?" Tyler pulled up his laptop. Rebecca Harrison's TikTok account was created 18 months ago, which coincides exactly with when Titan Industries began their acquisition research on Mitchell Technologies. Her follower growth patterns match bot network signatures, the same type Jackson was using for his company metrics. She was building a fake influencer persona as cover for corporate espionage. Sarah realized. "Gets better. I found financial records showing payments from shell companies linked to Titan Industries to various social media marketing firms. Someone spent $200,000 buying Rebecca's fake followers and engagement." Maya looked up from her legal pad. "This proves premeditated fraud on multiple levels." "But we need more than just proof," Richard said. "We need Rebecca to expose herself publicly before Titan can extract her, or before Jackson faces federal charges." Sarah had been thinking about this problem for hours. What if we give Rebecca exactly what she wants? Meaning, she needs Jackson to commit bigger crimes, more dramatic crimes, something that would completely destroy Mitchell Technologies' value for Titan's acquisition. Sarah's voice grew stronger as the plan formed. "What if we let her think she succeeded?" Tyler caught on first. "You want to stage Jackson committing a major crime." "I want Rebecca to believe Jackson is about to transfer $50 million to offshore accounts and flee the country with her, something so dramatic and public that it would crater the company's value permanently." Richard was skeptical. "That's an enormous risk. If word gets out that Jackson is moving company funds, it won't be real money, and it won't be real accounts." Sarah looked at Tyler. "You understand data systems. Can you create fake bank records that would fool Rebecca long enough for her to make her move?" Tyler was already typing. "I know someone who specializes in forensic accounting. Give me 6 hours and I can create banking records that would fool the FBI, at least temporarily." "Meanwhile," Sarah continued, "I'll convince Jackson that Rebecca is planning to betray him. I'll tell him I've discovered her real identity and that she's been recording their conversations for Titan Industries." Maya looked concerned. "Sarah, that's incredibly dangerous. If Jackson thinks Rebecca is working against him, then he'll panic and do something stupid, which is exactly what Rebecca's bosses are counting on." Sarah's smile was cold. But Jackson won't know that we're counting on it too. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Mrs. Mitchell, you're proposing we manipulate my son into believing he needs to commit a major financial crime to protect himself from corporate espionage. I'm proposing we let Rebecca Harrison manipulate your son into believing that, while we record everything and use it to expose her real agenda. And if Jackson actually tries to steal $50 million, then we stop him before any real money moves, and we have video evidence of Rebecca coaching him through the crime. Sarah met Richard's eyes. Your son is guilty of securities fraud, but he's also a victim of corporate manipulation. This way, we prove both things. Harrison Webb was scribbling legal notes frantically. The entrapment issues alone won't matter if we're exposing a larger conspiracy, Richard interrupted. And if Rebecca Harrison is on record coaching Jackson to commit major financial crimes, Titan Industries becomes legally liable for her actions. Tyler looked up from his laptop. I'm in. Give me 12 hours and I'll have everything we need to make this look real. Maya still looked worried. Sarah, you're 8 months pregnant and on bed rest. How exactly are you planning to orchestrate this? Sarah picked up her phone. The same way I uncovered Jackson's affair, social media, fake accounts, and very careful manipulation of information. She started typing. Jackson's about to receive anonymous messages warning him that his girlfriend is a corporate spy. Messages that will be completely true, but delivered in a way that makes him think his only option is to run. And Rebecca's about to receive evidence that Jackson is planning to abandon her and flee with company money. Evidence that will force her to reveal her true agenda to stop him. Richard stood, straightening his tie. Mrs. Mitchell, if this works, you'll have accomplished something remarkable. You'll have turned a personal betrayal into corporate justice. And if it doesn't work, Richard's smile was sharp, then at least we'll all go down fighting. As the conspirators left to implement their plan, Sarah remained in her hospital bed, staring out at the Seattle skyline. In less than 24 hours, she would either expose the truth about her destroyed marriage or trigger a chain of events that would destroy everyone involved. Her daughter kicked strongly, reminding Sarah that she wasn't just fighting for revenge anymore. She was fighting for a future where the truth mattered more than power, where justice existed even in corporate boardrooms, and where her child would grow up knowing that sometimes the only way to beat a rigged system is to rig it better. The final battle was about to begin. Sarah's phone showed 17 missed calls from Jackson when she finally answered on the 18th ring. Her voice was carefully modulated to sound weak, defeated. Jackson, what's wrong? Sarah, thank God. Listen to me very carefully. We're both in danger. Jackson's voice was strained, panicked in a way Sarah had never heard before. I've been getting anonymous messages. Someone knows about Brooklyn's real identity. Sarah gripped the phone tighter. Tyler's information campaign was working perfectly. What do you mean, her real identity? Her name isn't Brooklyn Hayes. It's Rebecca Harrison, and she works for Titan Industries. Sarah, she's been spying on my company for months. That's insane. Jackson, you're being paranoid. No. Listen. Jackson's voice cracked. I confronted her about it this morning. She didn't deny it. She just laughed and said it was too late, that Titan already has everything they need to destroy us. Sarah made her voice smaller, more frightened. Jackson, I don't understand. What does this have to do with me? Because whoever sent me this information knows about everything. The bot networks, the fake metrics, the IPO fraud. If this gets out before we go public... Jackson was breathing heavily. Sarah, They're going to arrest me. The SEC, the FBI, everyone. I need to move company funds to secure accounts before they freeze everything. Move funds, Jackson. That sounds like embezzlement, I know, but it's not stealing if it's my own company's money. I just need to protect it until this blows over. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling sick at how perfectly Rebecca had manipulated Jackson into this exact position. How much money? 50 million, maybe 60, enough to start over somewhere else if I have to. Start over where? Jackson was quiet for a moment. Sarah, I want you to come with me. You and the baby. We can disappear together. Start fresh. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But Brooklyn, Rebecca, she was never real. You're my wife. You're carrying my child. Sarah felt tears running down her face, but not for the reasons Jackson would expect. This broken, desperate man wasn't the same person who toasted his mistress at their anniversary dinner. He was a victim too, manipulated by forces he didn't understand. Jackson, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Just stay where you are. Don't talk to anyone else. I'm going to handle this, and then we'll figure out our future together. After Jackson hung up, Sarah immediately called Tyler. He's moving tonight. Rebecca convinced him he needs to transfer funds to protect them from corporate espionage. Perfect. Our fake banking system is ready, and I have cameras positioned at 3 different locations where they're likely to meet. Tyler's voice was tight with excitement. Sarah, this is going to work. What about Richard? He's positioned with his security team to intervene the moment any real money is at risk, and Maya's standing by with federal prosecutors who are very interested in Titan Industries' corporate espionage activities. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your husband is about to make the biggest mistake of his life. If you want to save him, call me. Rebecca. Sarah showed the message to Maya, who had returned to the hospital to monitor the situation. She's making her final move. Don't respond, Maya advised. Let her think you're too scared or too defeated to interfere. But Sarah was already typing back, I don't know what you're talking about. Rebecca's response came immediately. Jackson is planning to steal company money and blame you for giving him the idea. He's going to claim you've been pressuring him to embezzle funds to pay for the baby's medical expenses. Sarah felt cold fury wash over her. Even in the final moments, Rebecca was trying to destroy her completely. Sarah typed, Why are you telling me this? Because Titan Industries doesn't want your husband in prison. They want him desperate and discredited, but not criminally charged. Bad for business. Stop him from moving the money tonight, and I'll make sure the fraud charges focus on the fake metrics, not major theft. It was a trap within a trap. Rebecca was offering Sarah a deal to save Jackson from the larger crime while still ensuring he faced enough legal trouble to destroy Mitchell Technologies' value. Titan would get their acquisition, Rebecca would get her payday, and Sarah would get a husband facing federal charges. Sarah deleted the conversation and turned to Maya. How's our real plan progressing? Maya checked her phone. Tyler's team has Jackson under surveillance. He's meeting Rebecca at their usual hotel in 2 hours to finalize the money transfer. Richard's people are monitoring all real accounts to ensure no actual funds move. And federal prosecutors are standing by to arrest Rebecca the moment she attempts to coach Jackson through major financial crimes. Sarah nodded, feeling her daughter kick strongly. Then it's time to end this. She picked up her phone and called Jackson one more time. Sarah, is everything okay? Jackson, I need to tell you something. I know about Rebecca Harrison. I know about Titan Industries. And I know about the money you're planning to move tonight. Silence. Jackson, I also know that you're not the real villain here. Rebecca manipulated both of us, but if you steal that money tonight, you'll be giving her exactly what she wants, proof that you're a criminal worthy of federal prosecution. Sarah, I don't have a choice. If I don't move those funds, you do have a choice. Trust me one more time. Let me help you expose Rebecca for what she really is." How Sarah smiled, feeling like herself for the first time in months, by giving her a show she'll never forget. The final act was about to begin, and Sarah Mitchell was ready to direct her own ending. The Seattle police arrested Rebecca Harrison at 11:47 p.m. on charges of corporate espionage, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit securities violations. The arrest was captured on Tyler Chen's hidden cameras and live streamed to his followers, making it the most watched corporate crime bust in Pacific Northwest history. Rebecca had walked into the hotel room expecting to coach Jackson through transferring $50 million to accounts controlled by Titan Industries. Instead, she found federal prosecutors, Seattle PD, and enough recording equipment to document every word of her confession. "You manipulated Jackson Mitchell into inflating user metrics to make Mitchell Technologies more attractive for acquisition by your employer," FBI Special Agent Patricia Morris stated for the record. Rebecca, still maintaining her Brooklyn Hayes persona despite being caught red-handed, tried one final manipulation. "I was just a girlfriend trying to help her boyfriend's business succeed." Agent Morris placed a stack of documents on the table. "Rebecca Harrison, you graduated summa cum laude from MIT with a degree in information systems. You've worked for 3 different corporate intelligence firms. Your employment with Titan Industries specifically required you to gain intimate access to Mitchell Technologies' financial records and corporate strategy." The live stream viewers watched Rebecca's TikTok influencer mask finally slip, revealing the calculating corporate operative underneath. "Your Honor," Rebecca's lawyer said during her arraignment the next morning, "my client was acting under duress from her corporate employers." Judge Catherine Williams wasn't impressed. "Ms. Harrison, you systematically destroyed a marriage, manipulated a man into committing financial crimes, faked a pregnancy to establish credibility, and attempted to facilitate the theft of $60 million. Bail is set at $5 million. Tyler Chen's investigative reporting won 3 journalism awards that year. His series, The Fake Influencer's Real Game, exposed how corporate espionage had evolved to target personal relationships, using social media manipulation and romantic entanglement to achieve business objectives. Jackson Mitchell faced 18 months in federal prison for securities fraud related to the bot networks and fake engagement metrics. But his sentence was reduced to 6 months plus community service after he testified against Titan Industries and provided evidence of Rebecca's manipulation tactics. "I fell in love with someone who didn't exist," Jackson said during his sentencing hearing. "I made serious mistakes with my company's data, but I was also the victim of a sophisticated corporate intelligence operation designed to exploit those mistakes. Richard Mitchell sold Mitchell Technologies to a consortium of Seattle-based investors rather than allow Titan Industries to acquire it at a reduced valuation. The sale price was 40% higher than Titan's original offer, and Richard used the proceeds to establish a foundation investigating corporate espionage in the tech industry." Sarah gave birth to Emma Rose Mitchell on a snowy February morning, with Maya serving as her birth partner and Tyler documenting the story that would become his book, The Anniversary Toast: How Social Media Destroyed a Marriage and Exposed Corporate Crime. "She's perfect," Sarah whispered, holding her daughter for the first time. Emma had Jackson's blue eyes, but Sarah's determined chin, and she came into the world healthy despite all the stress of the previous months. Maya handed Sarah her phone. "You might want to see this." The screen showed social media statistics that made Sarah laugh through her tears. Anniversary Toast had generated over 50 million views across all platforms. Justice for Sarah had trended for 2 weeks straight. Brooklyn Hayes' fake TikTok account had been banned, but not before becoming a case study in digital manipulation taught at business schools nationwide. Most surprisingly, Sarah's own social media following had grown to over 800,000 people who'd followed her story from viral humiliation to corporate justice. Brands were reaching out for partnerships, publishers wanted book deals, and production companies were interested in documentary rights. "What are you going to do with all this attention?" Maya asked. Sarah looked down at Emma, who was sleeping peacefully despite the chaos of the past year. "I'm going to use it to help other women who find themselves trapped in situations like mine. Women who discover their entire lives are built on lies, but don't have the resources to fight back." 6 months later, Sarah launched the Emma Foundation, providing legal and investigative support for women facing corporate or financial manipulation in their personal relationships. The foundation's first major case helped expose a pharmaceutical executive who'd been systematically poisoning his wife to inherit her family's medical research company. Tyler Chen became the foundation's investigative partner, using his journalism background to uncover corporate crimes hiding behind personal relationships. Maya joined as legal counsel, bringing her experience in family law and corporate litigation. Jackson was released from prison after serving 4 months, with good behavior and cooperation with ongoing investigations reducing his sentence. He sent Sarah a letter asking to meet Emma, but Sarah wasn't ready for that conversation yet. "Maybe someday," she told Maya. "When Emma's old enough to understand that people can make terrible mistakes and still deserve forgiveness, but not yet." Richard Mitchell kept his promise to disappear from their lives, though Sarah occasionally received anonymous donations to the Emma Foundation that she suspected came from his office. Rebecca Harrison was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution to Mitchell Technologies investors. Titan Industries faced congressional investigation for corporate espionage activities, and their acquisition strategy was exposed in Wall Street Journal articles that credited Tyler Chen's original reporting. On Emma's first birthday, Sarah received a message that surprised her. It was from a woman in Phoenix whose husband had been manipulated into business crimes by a colleague who turned out to be conducting corporate espionage. "I saw your story and realized I wasn't crazy," the woman wrote. "My husband wasn't just unfaithful. He was being used. Thank you for showing me that sometimes the people we think are villains are actually victims too." Sarah shared the message with Maya over coffee in their favorite Capitol Hill cafe, the same place where their investigation had begun almost 2 years earlier. "Do you ever regret it?" Maya asked, not taking Richard's original $2 million offer and disappearing quietly. Sarah looked out the window at Seattle's skyline, where new construction cranes promised continued growth and change. "I regret that it took a public humiliation to wake me up to what was really happening. I regret that Emma will grow up knowing her father as someone who went to prison. But I don't regret fighting back." "Even though it cost you your marriage," Sarah smiled, watching Emma play with her toys on the cafe floor. "Maya, that marriage was never real. I was married to a fiction, a carefully constructed image designed to serve other people's purposes. Emma and I deserve better than that." As they prepared to leave, Sarah's phone buzzed with a notification. The Emma Foundation had received another case request, this time from a tech worker in Austin who suspected her boyfriend was stealing her startup ideas for his own company. "Ready for another case?" Maya asked. Sarah picked up Emma, who babbled happily and reached for her mother's face. "Always. Someone has to prove that the truth is worth fighting for, even when the whole world is watching." The anniversary toast that was supposed to destroy Sarah Mitchell had instead transformed her into something far more powerful than a wife or victim. She'd become a force for justice in a world where corporate power too often overwhelmed individual truth, and she was just getting started.